Hello and welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about corn production a little bit, and the aspect we're going to focus on is variable seeding rates. When you think about the variability through your field, it makes sense that one seeding rate isn't going to be the perfect one in every spot. We'll talk about how to determine what rate you should be using in different parts of the field.
We're also going to talk about stalk quality. I don't care if we're talking corn, soybeans, wheat, whatever the crop is. You want to have a good stalk so you can harvest the grain at the end of the season safely, carefully, easily, all that type of thing. We're going to go through improving stalk quality and the steps you can take on your farm today.
Of course, we'll talk about weed control with our Weed of the Week a little later in the show, and we've got an iron talk too. But first, here's our farm basics.
These days, it can be hard to make the math work in your soybean fields. With the Liberty Link system with Liberty herbicide, it gets easier. A 2+ bushel per acre advantage over Asgrow Roundup Ready to Extend soybeans means at least $18 more an acre for you. Plus, lower system input costs and more complete weed control all adds up to at least $33 more an acre for your farm. That's smart math. Grow smart with BASF.
During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about the 2019 Ag PhD Field Day.
Well, it's just around the corner. You know, you think about it, oh no, that's months off, but it really is pretty quick. Time moves so fast, especially when you plant a crop and by the time you start caring for it, it's ready to go. And the Ag PhD Field Day is one of those sites that it seems like we're planting for a long time. We've got so many different crops that we'll show you and so many new things. We're just excited to get out in the field and show right in the middle of the growing season during our field day what those things will actually do for you on your farm.
This is one of the events we put on each year just to say thank you to you for watching Ag PhD TV, listening to us on Ag PhD Radio. We want to host you at our farm. It's a free event. The last 3 years, we've had about 10,000 farmers come from all around the country and really from many foreign countries as well. We have a lot of really high-yield farmers there, not only to speak to you, but also to show you things they're doing in plots they've managed all season long. And Darren and I will give you a guided tour of our research plots and talk about some of the new technologies coming forward as we go down the road in agriculture.
One of the things I like the best is that farmers from all over the world are coming to our field day, and they aren't coming to just kick the tires and get a free meal. They're coming to learn things and to share information. And when you start talking to farmers in other areas, whether it's a mile down the road, an hour down the road, or on the other side of the world, you're going to learn new things that can help your farm and help you get more yield.
Well, once again, it's the Ag PhD Field Day. It's on our farm. It's a free event. Thursday, July 25th this year. It's always the last Thursday, and yes, it is just a one-day event. We've got a lot of things to show you. It'll start at 7:30 in the morning and will be done by about 4 in the afternoon. We'd love to have you there.
Well, one of the things I hope you don't see at the Ag PhD Field Day is our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?
Invisible, invasive, underestimated. Nematodes are stealing over 10% of yields, and current protection methods aren't enough. But a breakthrough seed treatment technology controls nematodes when they attack. Now offering NemaStrike technology. It provides broad spectrum control from the start and stays in the root zone as plants grow. Take back your bushels with NemaStrike technology. Strike where nematodes attack.
The Guardian Air Twin Spray Nozzle from Hypro produces a twin spray pattern with air inducted droplets for superior coverage, even in dense canopies. Be effective and efficient with your spray application this season with the Guardian Air Twin. Hypro, helping you spray better.
Let's take a look at our picks for the championship season. We've got 10-34-0.
No. I don't want to talk about them. I want to talk about this Agro Liquid team. Take a look at this lineup. They got it all. The talent, their players can meet any challenge on any field. The coaching staff, the best I've seen.
So that's your pick? No discussions?
Nope. Agro Liquid is the team. They're going all the way to the championship.
Leading the charge in strip tillage for more than a decade, the Soil Warrior brings the future to your farm today.
Your planter is the single most important piece of equipment on your farm, because without a uniform stand, you can't reach maximum yield. That's why Harvest International set out to design a planter that takes advantage of the newest innovations in planter technology. Built tough for high speed and integrated with the latest precision enhancements, Harvest International planters ensure every seed you plant today puts more in your bin at harvest. Harvest International, planting the future.
Tired of that old warped poly boom ruining your spray applications? Express Boom from Hypro is a fully assembled stainless steel boom that ensures an even application of chemicals every time. Don't wait another season, upgrade today. Hypro, helping you spray better.
Each year we talk to a lot of farmers who have lodging issues regardless of crop. We see it all over. It's not just corn, it's wheat, it's soybeans, many different crops. So I just wrote down a quick list of some of the things that I think we need to talk about today that relate to stalk quality. For example, your levels of potassium, manganese, and copper in the soil and in your plant, compaction, biologicals, planting depth, no excess nitrogen in relation to other nutrients, seed treatments, foliar fungicides. There are many, many things that can affect lodging and just overall stalk quality, so we need to get into those just a little bit more in depth.
All right, first of all, let's talk about hybrids, because in 2018 we saw some hybrids that just fell apart in certain acres, in certain environments, and in other fields they look great. Well, why are there big differences? This is why we're talking about stalk quality today. Brian listed a whole bunch of different things that we would look at if someone called us and said, hey, I'm having an issue with my stalks. Can you help me figure it out so I don't have this issue again going forward? We just work our way down the list. Let's start with the nutrients. The big ones that we look at in terms of stalk quality, obviously potassium is really important. You need lots of potassium, not just crop removal rates. You need many times that you're going to actually extract from the soil. Now your stover is going to hold a lot of that potassium, and it's going to release as soon as that crop is harvested and you get some moisture to flush it out of the stalks. But still, we do want to look at what our soil potassium levels are, and then we want to see where that potassium's at. What we've been finding across the country is a lot of that potassium is so stratified in the top inch or so of soil that when we get really dry, we have a hard time taking it in. So if we're into an area that had a period of drought, if that happened at some point in your crop's life, you're probably going to have a stalk issue and you're going to have a weakened stalk. The other things that we look at are manganese and copper. These are two things that a lot of the farmers that we've talked to haven't even tested for. Now, it doesn't cost much more to test for the micronutrients as well, so I'd encourage you, do that on your farm. Get a complete soil test.
Well, one of the things that affects the nutrient availability, especially with nutrients like manganese, for example, is what your soil pH is. So it's not just about, hey, I applied a bunch of manganese, now I'm set. Well, where's your pH at? Where did you put that manganese? Is it in a form that's going to be available? You've got to ask yourself those questions. With manganese, for example, once you get above a 6.5 pH, you'll see the availability really start to drop off. So if you have one field at 6.5 pH and another field at 7.5, they could have identical levels of manganese. Well, the one's probably in good shape and the other one not so much. With copper, that's another nutrient that can get stratified in soil a little bit, but typically we don't find a lot of farmers are applying much for copper. Copper is really important when we start talking about disease protection in that plant. And when you say stalk quality issues, I first think about disease. So what do we have to do? We have to have the right fertility, especially with some of the micronutrients like copper.
Hey, the other thing before we leave the fertility topic is nitrogen. And when we look at soil tests and we see, wow, we only have 1% base saturation K, yet we're really pushing it on nitrogen and going to high rates of nitrogen, when we get those things way out of line, we end up with issues and the plant just can't take it. What we see a lot of times is stalk quality issues when we're short in potassium and really high in nitrogen. So just watch it. If you're seeing, well, hey, I put another 50 pounds of nitrogen on, but I never got a yield benefit from it, this could be one of the signals to you that maybe it wasn't nitrogen that you needed and you should be looking at other things.
Yeah, and then in terms of when you apply your nitrogen, put it on when the crop needs it, get it into the crop when it needs it, as opposed to having a whole bunch of excess real early in the season. Then we start looking at compaction. Well, compaction could be poor drainage. It could be you don't have enough calcium in the soil. It could be that you're simply out there too early after rainfall too often. So when you have compaction out there, what happens is the roots aren't able to grow as big as they should, and when they can't, then obviously they can't feed the plant properly, and you have stalk quality issues.
Now the next thing I would look at is seed treatments. And seed treatments make such a huge difference in terms of stalk quality because a lot of these stalk rots and diseases that are going to show up later in the season actually started early season getting in through that root system. So if your crop has wet feet, you've got to protect it as best you can. You've got to improve your drainage, number one, but use a really good seed treatment. And there are some big differences in the industry today. We're seeing some seed companies go the cheap route on seed treatments, trying to keep costs down, but then we're seeing other companies adding additional ingredients like ethoboxam, for example, is one that's really made a difference on our farm. Having that seed treatment in the package on the corn seed has helped protect us from more early season diseases, especially like Pythium.
When we talk seed treatments, that's also typically where biologicals and plant growth hormones get involved. So just look at that overall package and what you're doing. When we start turning to, okay, I'm actually putting that seed in the ground, you got to look at planting depth too. If you're planting at 1.5 inches versus, let's say, 2 1/4 inches deep, there very well might be a difference in how well your plant is rooting down. So that could be one of the things you could evaluate on your farm too. Personally, I prefer planting depth around 2 1/4 inches, maybe even 2.5 in some cases, and I think we have a little bit better root system. And finally, foliar fungicides absolutely can help in terms of some of the late season diseases that come in and affect that stalk quality. So you've got a number of things you can look at if you've had stalk quality issues here in the last few years. But if it's me, I'm going to start by looking at a good soil test.
Stalk quality is really important, but so is weed control. We'll show you how to stop this tough weed later in the show.
Why do I farm? It's just something I've always wanted to do. Something I've known since I was my daughter's age. I think about what kind of farm I'm going to hand over to her, about how I can make it more successful, more sustainable. I talk to other farmers, with agronomists and advisors to help me make better decisions, to figure out what's working for them and how to make it work even better for my farm. Because when you farm, you have a responsibility to keep it growing, to look at a freshly planted field, a newborn calf, even your bottom line. Then ask yourself, how do I help this grow? How can I make it even more productive? I ask myself these questions every day, because no matter what I'm doing, I'm still a farmer.
Your planter is the single most important piece of equipment on your farm, because without a uniform stand, you can't reach maximum yield. That's why Harvest International set out to design a planter that takes advantage of the newest innovations in planter technology. Built tough for high speed and integrated with the latest precision enhancements, Harvest International planters ensure every seed you plant today puts more in your bin at harvest. Harvest International, planting the future.
At Estes Performance Concaves, we know how valuable your time is at harvest. That's why we designed the new XPR concave system. The XPR system is the #1 performance concave system on the market, surpassing the rest in both speed and efficiency, ensuring every last grain from your field gets into your tank. Plus, XPR concaves work for all row crops. No more changing concaves, meaning you have less downtime. Take back your bushels this harvest. Get Estes Performance Concaves in your combine today.
If you're looking to expand your farm's grain handling, you want everything to be fast and efficient. The Quick Belt from Norwood Sales is your all-around grain handling solution. Our conveyor-based system uses an 18-inch belt and a 10-inch tube, which minimizes seed damage while moving more than 10,000 bushels an hour. That's fast enough to fill a semi in 6 minutes. Plus, our hood is designed to gently direct the flow of grain straight down, keeping your crop in condition. Keep your grain and your farm moving with the Quick Belt from Norwood Sales.
Avoid dry run failures with the new Hi-Pro Force Field pump. Providing the ultimate protection, this wet seal pump will save you on costly in-season downtime to keep your sprayer running. Now all you have to worry about is the weather. Hi-Pro, helping you spray better.
talked about corn a little bit so far on our show, and we want to talk about the seeding rate that you're putting out in your field and if variable rate may be right for you.
Well, in my opinion, variable rate is a good option as long as you don't have to spend too much in order to do it. But a lot of the modern planters today come equipped that way. So all you have to do is write up a prescription and then have the planter just do it. So I just want you to think about this. On your farm, you have areas that are more productive and you have areas that are less productive. In our operation, what I'm looking at there is really soil type. I can fix a lot of different things. If I've got 2 different clay soils, I can change whatever I need to in terms of nutrients, but I can't change the sand content. I can't change what type of soil I have. And unfortunately, we have some sandy, non-irrigated spots right out in the middle of good, nice, rich black dirt. So in that case, what we do in those spots, we cut populations way back. We'll vary things on our farm all the way from 40,000 to probably 18,000 plants per acre on corn. Yes, I know it sounds crazy to vary it that much, but just ask yourself, do I have areas that are that much different in production? Well, I know we certainly do on our farm. In those sand spots, there's just nothing I can do to fix that unless I was to get irrigation out there. And for a 3-acre spot in a field, to me, it's just not worth it to do that. So the way we look at this whole thing is we just want to cut everything back there and look at, let's say our yield goal there is 150 bushel corn, but in most of the rest of the field, it's 250 bushel corn. That's a dramatic difference, and I definitely do not need all the plants in that bad area compared to what I do in the good area.
Let's talk about the hybrids too, because in the past, for many farmers, when it was a lot more difficult and a little more work to change what planting rate you're going to have throughout the field, farmers would just say, well, you know what, I've got some sandy spots in that field, so I'm just going to plant a defensive hybrid over there. Or they might say, I'm going to plant one that has a flex ear, so I can just plant at a lower seeding rate all throughout the field and maybe find a happy medium rate where maybe we're giving up a little on the top end here, but maybe we're not doing too bad in the tough spots of the field. I would say this, if you've got a good flex ear, you do have a little bit more cushion there to vary that rate widely like Brian was talking about. If you've got one that's more of a determinate ear, there may be a bottom end on that you know what, you just don't want to go below 25,000 on this particular hybrid, or maybe you don't want to go above 30,000 on another hybrid. So you do need to understand your hybrids just a little bit, what kind of flex ear characteristics they have, and then place those hybrids accordingly.
One of the biggest things that I would tell you though is we're huge believers in spreading your risk. We don't know what next year is going to bring. For example, this year, wettest year we've ever had on our farm. Next year very well could be the driest, or it might be somewhere in between. So the point is, do I know today if 32,000 is the right planting population for a given acre, or is 28, or maybe it's 36. I'm not real sure. I really don't know. So I do like having some variance throughout my fields. And I just still come back to, I'm going to vary it based on my overall productivity. And then once I do, I'm going to fertilize accordingly. It doesn't do me any good to put 250 pounds of nitrogen on where I'm only shooting for 150 bushel yield goal. So it's basically what I'm trying to say, part of a package. You've got to look at, okay, I'm going to vary my planting population a little bit, but then I need to vary some other things too accordingly. And if you do all that together, what you'll find is you're actually able to cut expenses, which I'm sure is what your banker is encouraging you to do, but you still aren't giving up the top end in your very good areas on your farm.
The other thing is take your 2018 yield maps and even look back a few years if you'd like, and then just look at those fields, look at your yield in different spots in the field, and then divide that out by the thousands of seeds that you planted in that area. So for example, say you had that 150 bushel area like Brian was talking about, and you had 30,000 plants out there. Well, that's only 5 bushels per 1,000 plants. That's simply not enough. You need to be getting at least 7 bushels per 1,000 plants. So if you've got that area that's 250 bushel corn and you say, well, hey, I only planted 25,000 population there, good job. You had a great flex hybrid. You got 10 bushels per 1,000. That's fantastic. So just look at your farm, look at these different areas and see where you're at. Kind of use 7 as an average number. And if you say, well, if I did 7 bushels per 1,000, how many plants would I need in that certain area?
Well, once again, we are big believers in varying plant population as long as you can do that cost effectively. And like I said earlier, most modern planters give you the ability to do that. On our farm, we're also varying hybrids as we cross the field. Again, by doing this allows us to put the right hybrid in the right place and also at the right population based on soil type and fertility.
One other thing that may impact your seed decision is our Weed of the Week. We'll show you what will stop this tough weed coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is brought to you by Corteva Agriscience, Agriculture Division of Dow DuPont. Finish the fight against tough weeds with the Enlist Weed Control System.
Weeds are tough, but we're tougher. With unrivaled weed control, reduced drift, and near zero volatility. So, who's tough now?
Our Weed of the Week is Lady's Thumb.
Well, if you thought this was Pennsylvania smartweed, you are definitely not alone because it does look very similar, doesn't it? You look at the leaves, and when it looks like a thumbprint on the leaves, that's a good indication that you're probably looking at lady's thumb. Now, the good thing is the products that control lady's thumb also control Pennsylvania smartweed. But where I wanted to start with this, I mentioned before we were talking about corn hybrid selection and population and those types of things. So often we see this weed towards the wetter parts of the field. And this is something where getting a good crop canopy would really help you with control, but you probably have to start with improving the drainage first.
Yes, drainage will help, and really it's going to help you with weed control overall. I don't care if it's just lady's thumb or whatever weed we're talking about. If you have great drainage, that means typically you can get your crop up at growing much bigger earlier. That's huge.
Well,
we want crop
canopy. It's a big deal. Like with this weed, it comes up just a little bit later in the spring. Yep. And if you do get that corn planted early, for example, and you get a crop canopy quicker, you're going to have less pressure with this weed.
Well, we were talking about planting populations earlier in the show too. I would also say if we plant thicker, whatever crop we're raising, the thicker we plant, the more crop canopy there is, the better weed control we have.
All right, well, let's get back to just controlling this weed. So let's say you get in your field and you say, oh man, I have lady's thumb out in the field. What can I do? We would really love it if you could start with a pre-emerge herbicide. Let's take wheat, for example. You could start off with Sharpen early and then come back post-emerge with Husky.
If I'm in soybeans, I'm going to run the 3 pre-program, a yellow, metribuzin, and either Valor or Authority as a PPO. Follow post-emerge. You know what? Roundup is not too bad on this weed. It's just you have to run a pretty strong rate and keep that water volume down a little bit. Liberty's pretty good. Dicamba is pretty good there. If you're in conventional soybeans, it's a tougher weed. I don't really know what we're going to do.
It is. I would use a rate of Raptor or Pursuit along with Flex Stuff. You can do that in your area. Yep. That would be my best bet to try and get it under control, because in alfalfa, that's what we would do too, is start with something like Pursuit or Raptor to try and get lady's thumb under control. I would say this though, you have to get it if it's down in the 2 to 4 inches tall at the most. Otherwise, once it gets bigger, it's got a lot of growing points on it.
All right, and finally, in corn, lots of different herbicides will work. I prefer Verdict, followed by Status, or you could use an HPPD and a little atrazine.
That's all the time we have for this week's weed, but Iron Talk is coming up next.
Do you feel like there's never enough time to get everything done before planting? The window for spring work is quick and unforgiving. Give yourself the upper hand with the ProTill High Performance High Speed Disc. More and more farmers agree the ProTill is the right tool for spring field conditions and heavy residue management. Zero maintenance bearings, independent disc technology, oversized pins and bushings allow the ProTill to handle whatever field or conditions you can throw at it. Degelman High Performance Equipment.
And how about the big man, Pro Germinator?
Yeah, this guy's got some experience in the field. But look at his stats. You can't argue with those kind of results.
You're right. I know a lot of teams wishing their phosphorus player had those kind of numbers.
Right, but this guy's not just phosphorus. He's got the nitrogen, the potassium, the micros. All those just add up to his phosphorus game.
And his game is good.
Invisible, invasive, underestimated. Nematodes are stealing over 10% of yields, and current protection methods aren't enough. But a breakthrough seed treatment technology controls nematodes when they attack. Now offering NemaStrike technology. It provides broad spectrum control from the start and stays in the root zone as plants grow. Take back your bushels with NemaStrike technology. Strike where nematodes attack.
At Estes Performance Concaves, we know how valuable your time is at harvest. That's why we designed the new XPR concave system. The XPR system is the #1 performance concave system on the market, surpassing the rest in both speed and efficiency, ensuring every last grain from your field gets into your tank. Plus, XPR concaves work for all row crops. No more changing concaves, meaning you have less downtime. Take back your bushels this harvest. Get Estes Performance Concaves in your combine today.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
There are 6,272,640 square inches in an acre. We counted. Why? Because we designed the TigerMate 255 field cultivator and 2000 series early riser planter to maximize every single one. So when you create the most level seed bed in the industry and target a nickel size area to plant a seed and never miss, you'll know in high efficiency farming, there's one name to count on. Case IH. Rethink productivity. Learn more at caseih.com/everyinch.
One smart decision helped us overcome the disastrous 2018 harvest weather on our farm. I'll share the secret in today's Iron Talk. We're always looking for new technology that can save us time, make our jobs easier, and improve our farm income. A few years ago, we thought we might have found one and we gave it a try. We installed bin fan controls. Our goal was mainly to be able to harvest soybeans a little wetter and take the extra moisture out of them in the bin. A secondary goal was to deal with soybeans harvested too dry by adding a little moisture back into the crop. Finally, we knew that if we used bin fan controls to help us manage our soybean crop, the controls would stay on the bins and be an asset to safely store our corn crop as well. Fast forward to 2018, where it seemed to rain all the time during harvest and soybeans just wouldn't dry down in the field. While most farmers were tasked with choosing between either harvesting wet soybeans and taking a big dock, or leaving the beans in the field and hoping for better weather, we were harvesting and putting crop in the bin. With bin fan controls automatically turning on fans during the hours it was warm and dry, we were able to pull the excess moisture out of the beans in a couple of weeks. The controls also shut the fans off perfectly when the humidity outside went too high to help us. It was great. You'll often hear us talk about doing things yourself on the farm to make or save money. With bin fan controls, it's so much easier and more efficient than constantly watching the weather and remembering to turn things on or off. I would never go back to how we used to do it. Take a look at bin fan controls for your farm. My experience has been it's some of the best money invested on our farm. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
That's our time for today. We hope you've enjoyed our show. If you're looking for more agronomic information, we'd encourage you to subscribe to the new Ag PhD Insider magazine. You can go to agphdinsider.com to learn more.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We'll have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.